Every single member of BTS served in the South Korean military. For nearly 4 years, they were gone. No concerts, no group music, no guarantee they'd ever come back as seven. And then on March 21, 2026 in the heart of Seoul, at Gwanghwamun Square 260,000 people showed up. Not in a stadium, in the middle of the city. For a free concert, hotels within walking distance went from $140 a night to over $700. Seoul didn't just welcome BTS back. The entire city transformed. Let's go back to where it started. April 2022, Las Vegas. BTS played their Permission to Dance on stage concerts and that was it. That was the last time all 7 members performed together on a stage. After that show, the clock started ticking. Jin enlisted first, then J-Hope followed him in. Then the remaining 4 RM, Suga, V, Jimin, and Jungkook all entered service. One by one, they disappeared from the stage and into military barracks. And look, they didn't vanish from music completely. Jin came back and released 2 solo albums, Happy and Echo. J-Hope completed an entire solo world tour and headlined Lollapalooza Berlin. Jungkook dropped Golden, gave us the global smash, 7, and became a Chanel ambassador. RM put out a second solo album and delivered a keynote at the Apex CEO Summit. V launched an art exhibition in Seoul. Jimin starred in a travel show. Suga kept producing for artists like IU and Coldplay behind the scenes. Every single member carried their own weight and then some. But the group, the 7-member force that sold out stadiums worldwide and broke every record in K-pop history? That stage stayed dark. For nearly 4 years, there were no group concerts. No new group music. Just 7 individuals scattered across military bases and solo schedules. And ARMY waited. The discharge dates came one by one. Jin in June 2024. J-Hope in October 2024. RM and V on June 10, 2025. Jimin and Jungkook the very next day. And then on June 21, 2025, Suga walked out, the last member to be discharged. All 7 were finally free. But they didn't rush to a stage. They did something no one expected. They moved to Los Angeles. All 7 members relocated to an LA studio and lived together for 2 months straight. 6 days a week, they worked on new music. Think about that for a second. After nearly 4 years apart, 4 years of solo paths, military routines, separate lives, they chose to lock themselves in a room together and create. RM talked about the experience in a GQ interview, what it was like being back in the same room after all that time, working side by side again. The result was Arirang, BTS's 5th studio album. It dropped on March 20, 2026, exactly 1 day before the concert. And on July 1, 2025, they gave ARMY the first glimpse of the reunion through a Weverse livestream. 7 faces on one screen again. After all that time. But here's the thing that makes this comeback different from anything else in K-pop. BTS didn't book a stadium. They didn't announce a private arena show for ticketed fans only. They went to their company and said, we want to play in the middle of Seoul. For free, in a place where no K-pop group has ever performed. They chose Gwanghwamun Square, the historic plaza at the center of the city. And what happened next turned Seoul upside down. BTS became the first K-pop act in history to perform at Gwanghwamun Square. 22,000 fans got reservation tickets. But the crowd didn't stop at the ticketed zone. According to the National Police Agency, over 260,000 people filled the streets of central Seoul that night. Let that number land for a second. 260,000. The city shut down roads from the evening of March 20th all the way through the early morning of March 22nd. Seoul deployed 6,500 security officers, including riot police units, and set up 31 designated entry points just to manage the flow of people. This wasn't a concert anymore. This was a citywide event. And the economic impact was staggering. Bloomberg estimated that the concert weekend generated roughly $177 million in spending across Seoul. Hotels in the Jongno and Yongji-yu districts, the neighborhoods closest to Gwanghwamun, saw bookings surge 450% compared to the same weekend last year. 4-star hotels that normally go for around $200,000 a night were charging $600,000 to over $1 million. Seoul's metropolitan government actually had to step in with anti-price gouging measures. International fans had been flooding into Incheon Airport since days before the show. You could hear Japanese, English, Indonesian, and Spanish echoing through the terminals. Meanwhile, Netflix streamed the entire concert live to subscribers worldwide, no extra charge. And the city launched BTS The City Arirang Seoul, a massive citywide celebration with 10 media facades lighting up the buildings around Gwanghwamun, running from March 20th through April 12th. Seoul didn't just host a concert. The city became the stage. Now if you're watching this and thinking, I need to be at a BTS show, here's exactly what you need to know. Whether you're coming to Seoul for the Arirang World Tour kickoff or planning ahead for another tour stop, here's your International Army Survival Guide. Getting to Gwanghwamun from Incheon Airport is straightforward. You take the AREX Airport Express train to Seoul Station, that's about 45 minutes and costs around 9,000 won. From Seoul Station, hop on the subway to Gwanghwamun Station on Line 5. You're right there. Now here's a game changer that dropped just in time. As of mid-March 2026, Seoul's subway kiosks at 273 stations now accept foreign credit and debit cards, Visa, MasterCard, the works. 440 new kiosks were installed across lines 1 through 8. You can also use Apple Pay or Kakao Pay. Before this, international fans had to figure out cash-only transit cards, so this is huge. For accommodation, here's the move. Hotels right next to Gwanghwamun are either sold out or wildly inflated. Instead, look at Hongdae or Dongdaemun, both are about 20 minutes by subway, the vibe is incredible, and the prices are way more reasonable. Myeongdong is another solid option at about 15 minutes out. One more thing, Seoul in late March is early spring. Daytime temperatures hover between 7 and 15 degrees Celsius, but evenings get noticeably colder. You're standing outside for hours at an outdoor concert, so layer up. And while you're in the area, don't just come for the concert and leave. Gyeongbokgung Palace, Korea's main royal palace, is literally a 5-minute walk from Gwanghwamun. Bukchon Hanok Village, a 600-year-old traditional neighborhood, and Insadong with its tea houses and art galleries, are both within 15 minutes on foot. Make a full day of it. Seoul is one of those cities that rewards you for exploring beyond the main event. But Seoul was just the beginning. The Gwanghwamun concert was the opening statement. What follows is the largest tour BTS has ever mounted. The Arirang World Tour spans 82 dates across 23 countries and 34 cities. It kicks off April 9th in Goyeong, South Korea, then rolls through Tokyo, Madrid, London, Munich, Paris, MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, Gillette Stadium in Massachusetts, and dozens more all the way through March 2027, ending in Manila. It's their largest world tour ever. To put it in perspective, their Love Yourself tour in 2018 covered 14 countries. This one covers 23. The projected total attendance is 4.7 million people, and every single date sold out in roughly 20 minutes. They're also using a full 360-degree stage setup, which means there isn't a bad seat in any of these stadiums. On top of all that, Netflix premieres BTS The Return, a documentary covering the full reunion journey on March 27th, just 6 days after the concert. This is the scale of what's happening right now. Not just a comeback, a global phenomenon picking up exactly where it left off and going even bigger than before. 4 years of silence, 7 separate paths, and then one night in the heart of Seoul, 260,000 people stood together and watched them come back. That's what BTS means. Not just music, a force that moves entire cities, reshapes economies, and connects millions of people across the planet. If you're ARMY, you already know. If you're just discovering this now, you understand why. Subscribe so you don't miss our tour coverage. Drop your city in the comments if you've got Arirang tour tickets. And if this video hit you in the feels, you know what to do.